All right.
Could you close that door for me all the way? Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Sure.
Sibilance. One,
Yeah,
two,
that's my
check,
joke.
check,
Yes,
check.
sibilance. Check 1, 2.
Okay.
All right, we're DeFusco. All right. Ooh, I like the sound of that.
Okay, 11 minutes. Stand by.
In the ever-changing world of business, companies of all sizes are looking for the necessary resources to help increase their bottom lines. Welcome to It's Business Time with Mike Weinstein, Arizona's resource hub for startups to medium-sized businesses. Join the movement online at itsbusinesstime.com. Now here's your host, Mike Weinstein.
All right, every once in a while, I get to bring in some good friends of mine into a studio. We are in studio with Andy DeFusco from DeFusco Law. Tell us a little bit about law. No, I'm just kidding. Tell us a little bit about your practice, what you and your wife do, who you represent, what type of clients.
Not too many people want to admit that they're good friends of lawyers, by the way, so I have to commend you for that, Mike.
Well, unless you need one, right? And all of a sudden, when you need an attorney, you're going through. We don't have Rolodexes these days, but you're going through your contact list of like, okay, what attorney do I know, and who have I been nice to? So, what kind of law do you guys do?
Well, this is a practice that we started about 3.5 years ago with my wife, Bryn. As I like to joke around, she now gets to boss me around at work as well as at home.
Yeah, we can talk. Okay, that's our Frasier hour. Okay, we'll talk about that later.
But the firm is called DeFusco Law, and our practice is entirely personal injury and wrongful death litigation. And prior to starting this, I had a previous law practice that I co-founded back in the mid-1990s. But since 2016, this is what we've been doing.
So what do we not know? What's the common misnomers or the common myths about personal injury cases or personal injury attorneys? Because my kids, okay, let me give you an example. The other day, the United States Postal Service lost a package of my 13-year-old, and so he wants to sue him. I'm like, son, first of all, the United States Postal Service is owned by the federal government, so if you sue them, my taxes are going to go up. But what are some of the misnomers, the things that, misconceptions that we have about personal injury law?
Well, there's quite a few, and I can talk to you a little bit about some of the reasons, but one of them is there seems to be this misperception that there's too many frivolous lawsuits that are filed. And there are frivolous lawsuits that are filed. But the best way to avoid frivolous lawsuits is to have good plaintiff's attorneys, because they don't file frivolous lawsuits. So we tend to spend a lot of time trying to convince people why they should not pursue a case, why they should not pursue a lawsuit. Sometimes there's just not a remedy there. Somebody suffered a horrible wrong, but nobody is responsible for causing their injuries.
All right, if you need a personal injury attorney, go ahead and text the word Andy. How about that? Andy to 411-923. That's Andy to 411-923. I'm going to get you some information on how you can reach a DeFusco Law, and you can chat with them about whatever you have going on. I think one of the misnomers and the misconceptions out there, and I know no matter what industry you're in, there's always somebody giving that industry a bad name and attributing to the reputation. But some of the personal injury attorneys that I know, and I would put you and your wife into that category, is as you truly are there, and the most rewarding feeling for you is not the paycheck, it's representing somebody who's truly been injured, entitled to compensation, and helping that person move forward with their life.
And that's a good point. We generally represent people who are experiencing one of the worst ordeals of their lives. They've lost a loved one. They've suffered a life-altering physical injury. They're never going to be the same again from a physical and an emotional, perhaps even a financial standpoint. And what's rewarding to us is being able to work very closely on a one-to-one basis with our clients during these difficult times, because the goal is for them to get their life back. At some point, they hopefully will make a good recovery, as good as they can make. I always like to tell clients, take care of yourself first. Take care of your health. Work with your physicians. Get better. And we'll take care of your legal case.
And one thing your wife doesn't know about me, but in a past life, I actually used to write website content and blogs for personal injury attorneys across the nation. And that was really kind of how I got in. Yeah, that's why I didn't tell you, Bryn, because I don't want to do any writing for you. But one of the things is that we always had talked about, and tell me whether we're right or wrong. But in the event that you do get injured, that other company's attorney is going to call you probably ASAP. Don't speak to anyone until you retain your own counsel, until you get the guidance and the advice that you need to navigate. Because sometimes we say things that might come back to hurt us.
Well, we've heard some horror stories. Insurance companies sending adjusters out to hospitals when people were still in ICU.
That's probably more of a clarification what I meant, the insurance people, yeah.
Right. And that does happen. And we've also heard some horror stories about attorneys going out to emergency rooms to try to sign up new clients, which is something that's very much frowned upon in our legal world. But it's generally good advice for clients not to discuss legal matters with others. They should be discussing medical matters with their physicians for the purposes of getting their injuries properly diagnosed and treated. As I like to say, we're lawyers, we can't give medical advice, and we don't expect your doctors to be giving you legal advice.
Right. And also what we learned too, especially with traumatic brain injuries, is oftentimes symptoms don't even show up for weeks down the road. So you could you could hit your noggin and injure your head and feel pretty good and feel fine for a couple days. You talk to somebody and you're like, hey, no problem. And then 7 days and 14 days down the road, symptoms start creeping up, and you might have made a statement that's going to hurt your case.
And we don't see that often in our...
Bryn didn't know that I knew stuff.
I'm very impressed, Mike. We don't see that too often in our line of work. We have a fairly low volume practice. We don't engage in active advertising, TV, billboards, things like that. It's just not our style. A lot of times we represent folks, obviously have suffered very bad injuries because of the negligence of somebody else. Now, you bring up a good point with something like a traumatic brain injury. You're quite correct. The symptoms of that may not manifest themselves for quite some time.
All right, we are in studio with Andy DeFusco from DeFusco Law. If you would like to chat with his firm, have questions about a possible injury that you have sustained or whatever the case is, go ahead and text the word Andy to 411-923. That's Andy to 411-923. Now, not asking you to speak from your personal clients or personal cases. Obviously, I wouldn't do that. But what are in Arizona some of the craziest personal injuries that you've seen, or crazy frivolous lawsuits? Those are my favorite, because I think that we should have a law that if your claim is so stupid, it should just be, you should just do 6 months in jail just for being stupid. But that's why I don't make laws.
That's why we're careful about the cases we accept for representation. Well, I can talk to you a little bit about some of the cases we have had. Of course, I'm not going to use client names, but we had a case one time. There's a bit of stupidity in this. It was a 5-year-old child that we represented, and he was in a car, strapped in a car seat, on his way to his what would be his 6th birthday party. And it was a family member that was driving him to this birthday party where his mother was waiting for him, and there was an adult sitting in the back seat of the car with him that reached down, picked up a loaded flare gun, and handed it to the 5-year-old. And it discharged, and he suffered horrific burn injuries on his torso and on his back and other parts of his body. I had to get over my anger about an adult doing something that stupid, giving a child a loaded flare gun.
So instead of 6 months, it should be more like 6 decades.
Oh, in that case.
And that's just, what are you in prison for? Because I'm an idiot.
It was horrible to think that this boy, who, when we resolved the case, he was 8 years old. It was horrible to think that he was going to be living with these injuries for the rest of his life because of something stupid that a grown adult did to him.
What are some of the mistakes that we make when we do suffer an injury? And what are some of the things that we can do to protect our case and our claim?
Well, I think the most important thing, and I tell clients this all the time, is take care of yourself. If you trust your doctor and you trust your surgeon and you trust your physical therapist, be compliant with their treatment directives, and don't overdo it, and just listen to your body, but mostly cooperate with your physicians and take care of yourself first. Folks shouldn't be worrying when their case is being handled by a competent attorney. They shouldn't be worrying about their case. They should be worrying about getting their life back.
We are in studio with Andy DeFusco. of DeFusco Law here, located in the area. If you'd like some more information, text the word Andy to 411-923. That's Andy to 411-923. I'm sure you guys have comrades across the nation and do some of the same things that you do around the country. What's it like operating and running a law firm here in Arizona as far as the business climate and so forth? And maybe what should aspiring attorneys know about Arizona?
Well, we're fortunate because had been doing this type of work for many years before I even met my wife, and then we started this practice just several years ago. I think the problem is there's a lot of lawyers out there, and it's difficult for consumers because lawyers will advertise their services in a number of different ways. Some are active in social media, some like TV advertising and things like that. I think when it comes to running a law practice, we run a small law practice. There's 2 lawyers, and clients like that.
Now, I want to stop because we don't have a lot of time, but what are some of the things that we should be asking a personal injury attorney if we're considering a personal injury attorney?
I think their experience, how long they've been litigating personal injury type cases, the types of cases that they've handled. In the case of children, do they understand that children's injuries in some respects are handled differently than the claims for adults? Mostly just to get a feel that the attorney is experienced, they're going to do a good job for them. It's also helpful to know that the lawyer doesn't have too high a volume of practice.
Yeah, and just because they're on a billboard I'm saying this, my words, not yours. Just because they're on a billboard doesn't necessarily make them a great attorney. If you'd like some more information on how you can find DeFusco Law, please text the word Andy to 411-923. That's Andy to 411-923.
Very nice. Very nice.
That was good. Bam.
On the money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Simple as that.
Yeah, that was good. Thank you very much.
So now,
I already lined up my favorite lawyer joke for you too. But you
dang it, I forgot. Oh my gosh, I forgot.